So, DeAnn, I'm just thrilled to death to have you on here today. We go back a long way, and it's just been amazing to see you climb the ladder and see what you're doing and knowing you personally. I was telling somebody the other day about you and saying that when we were at Buffini back in 17, I saw you post on Facebook that you were at the event, and I went, "Oh, well, I'm at the event." And we happened to be, what, 3 or 4 seats from each other and didn't even know it. So that was neat because we'd never met personally. So I thought that was kind of cool. And I got to meet your moms. So, so what we're going to talk about today is everything that you can bring to the table to help real estate agents in today's market. And then I love the title that we're going to do this is, would you still hire you? So I love that. So let's start off with you and your background and what you're bringing to the table for everybody today.
Well, it is such a privilege to be with you, Kim. And truly, I mean, through the years, I have watched you and what you've done to the industry and to help us as sales professionals and realtors across the nation, do what we do and do it better. And so just a big, quick thank you to you. And even in your opening about how we finally got to come full circle and meet each other in person after having this incredible relationship, nurturing, a beautiful relationship from afar. And that very moment, when you captured a moment that I had posted and the reach out and the connect, and I think that is so pivotal for what we as real estate professionals do, because we connect with people, we build relationships with people. You don't know where they may ultimately open doors, if you will, or how you can be an influence other people's lives. But I mean, our even story, because the real magic of it is it dates back to 1995, Kim, I think it was, when I was in my real estate career. I had just started and I was working with my mom, who, many years later, I think we figured out it was 2017 when not only you met myself, but my mom. We had seen you from afar on a panel, and you were presenting about the power of having assistance and asking for help in this business to be able to do your job better, to serve your clients. And, I engaged you from afar as my virtual assistant to help me get organized and to be my strength where I had weaknesses. So, 26 years later, I am still loving every minute of this business. And it all started from 1978 when I was just helping my mom study for her real estate license. And it's been an awesome journey ever since. But thank you for being a huge part of it. And it's really great to be here today.
You're so sweet. Well, I'm honored to have been a part of it. So there you go. So jumping right in, kind of give us your background. You had started out as an agent and now you are high up on the ladder with Berkshire Hathaway. So kind of tell us that journey.
Now, every day I'm just here to serve. And a couple of little known facts about me was I actually started in this business as a receptionist. I would be helping my mother, although originally I was not going to be pursuing a career in real estate. And my first career was as a pharmaceutical sales rep. But then I went back and as life kind of led me, I was pursuing an MBA, and my mother was opening up her own brokerage after 16 years of being a sales professional herself. And she needed a receptionist. And I figured, well, maybe I could do that in between classes and help her out. And sure enough, it was a Friday afternoon. And I remember, I think it was leading into Georgia football games. So, people are busy leading into Georgia games. And I was trying to find an agent that would be available to help a client. And, everyone was already committed short notice. And I looked at my mom and I said, Mom, I should get my license and be able to help. I wanted so much to help this person that was coming into town, and our agents were already committed. And so that's truly what sparked me. And I've done everything from a receptionist to a listing coordinator to a marketing manager. I loved my career as a sales professional. And then it just opened doors to, became a trainer and a coach, and then a managing broker, and then a regional, and just really feel blessed that this past summer, I was given the privilege to become our president and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices Georgia Properties, here with 29 offices, 1,600 sales professionals.
Isn't that amazing? Just that one one afternoon just totally changed your life, and I just think that's just awesome. And what you have been through, you didn't just start out as a real estate agent. You started out behind the scenes and learned what goes into an agent's business. And I think that's something that's very unique that most brokerages or, senior vice presidents, they don't experience. So what you bring to the table to help, the agents that y'all have to learn how to be, what I always say is you're an entrepreneur, but you're also a real estate agent. So you have to learn how to run your business, because if you don't run your business successfully, you're going to fail because it's going to catch up to you in the long run. So,
right.
kind of talking about that with your background, when you are training your agents, that's probably a big part of what you bring to the table is you've got to know this. You may not do it yourself, but you still have to know how to do it,
Right. I use this analogy. We talk to our independent contractors or our sales professionals, that they are the CEO of their own business. An enduring business, but they've got to have enough acumen to understand the operations and the marketing, and even whether they're doing it within their company and leaning in on the support of a company, or they do go to build a team, understanding the financial piece, understanding the operations and the business marketing side of things. You've got to have that multidimensional ability to keep it moving forward. So that's well said, but I'm a big believer in you need to lean in on your team, and whether you're an individual agent leaning into the team support of your company, or if you get to a place in your career where you are looking to expand your team, or when you were like me, who was an individual agent that, leaned into you to help me with my virtual assistant work back in the day.
Well, it's kind of like they say, what do you hate to do, and find the person that does love it and let them do it.
That's
It
right. It's
doesn't
that good old
matter.
fashioned Ben Franklin list, what are you really
Exactly.
strong at? And what could we, and also what's the highest net worth activities and return on investment activities for you as a sales professional, which we all know is being out frontline with the people, talking to them, showing, negotiating, writing offers at closing, and, repeat.
Yep.
You can
Repeat,
delegate the
repeat,
other.
repeat.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah. So kind of take us through when you onboard a new agent. What would you say, maybe 2 tips that you would give a new agent when you're onboarding them? Kind of
Well, the
walk us through that.
that's such a great question. And prior to welcoming someone to our company, we do spend a lot of time really laying out, the expectations and what the career is. Through my career, for me to be able to identify talent as it is for me to be able to counsel talent up front before they take the leap into this business. Is this business right for them? And are they going to be able to, persevere and pursue and proceed as what we like to call a forever agent that's not just here to launch or for a transaction, but for the life cycle. So, once we've done that, really kind of counseling up front, I always tell them that this is their business. We do not hire hobbyists. We are gifted with the privilege of bringing people home and invested with helping them navigate wealth accumulation in their most important financial asset that most people will ever own, whether it's residential or then taking them into the commercial path and so forth. And so, we've got to be there. And Kim, I just read a fascinating statistic that, pre-pandemic, people are living in their homes and moving every 4 to 7 years. That is doubling. Right now, it is looking like people are staying in their homes every 10 to 13 years. But NAR statistic and all the wonderful research that they put out has an agent that has an average tenure of less than 8 years. So think about that. Homeowners are outliving and outlasting the tenure of a realtor's duration. And so there's a gap. So we're so passionate about asking our agents and asking them to be prepared to not do this for just a moment, but to make it something that's going to be a milestone in their life that'll become their forever career. So there. And then number 2, I used to always teach post-license, and one of my first questions would be, why'd you get in this business? And I knew when somebody says, oh, I love to look at houses and I love to drive around and they're beautiful. Well, the short answer was wait till you go through your first inspection and there's squirrels in the attic, or there's a stucco problem, or there's termites in the wood. And you may not like houses as much as you first thought you did, but if you love people and you love helping them achieve dreams, and you love helping move them forward and building communities, and this is the business for you. So I go back to what's their why? Why did they feel that this was the right career for them? And are they ready to move forward? And do they have a client base? Do they know people? And if they don't have a big sphere, are they willing to go out and meet? Another little quick before I turn it back to you, Kim, if I could, is sometimes people say, oh, but your mother was in this business for 45 years, so this was easy for you. It was not, because I picked up in my very first couple of months, and I moved to a totally new market in Charleston, South Carolina, where I didn't know a soul, and I did not have a sphere, and I did not have a network. And so I go back to that number 2 recommendation was, I knew in order to make this business a career for me forever, I had to be able to network and build loyalty and trust with raving fans in order to succeed. So those are my 2 probably biggest points. It's a business, it's not a hobby.
Right.
And you've got to be in it for the people.
And I totally 150% agree with you, because when I talk to agents, they just look at the real estate business, buying and selling real estate. They don't look at the systems that go into place to run that successful business. So when I talk to agents, I always ask them, find out what your company or your brokerage or your team leader is going to give you and help you succeed. Because when you succeed, they succeed. And if they're not going to give you those tools, then you need to find the right brokerage or the right team leader, or agent, whatever that may be, that's going to be able to help you build your business. Because everybody wants to succeed, but a lot of them just get thrown out there and then they don't know what to do. And so they get very frustrated. And then, what you want, it's kind of like I always say, I love competition, but you better bring your game, because I'm bringing mine, you bring yours. And when you do that, it's a great relationship.
And I think now more than ever, to the statistic I just shared, you got to bring your game, and you got to be the best you can be at point of sale, in nurturing that relationship so that they'll be willing to entrust you with that investment, whether it's buying or selling. But now we've got this continuum, this longer gap. That what are you able to do to provide relevancy? Is it continually providing real estate market reviews? Is it having the affinity, the core partners that can take a look at, is it time to refinance? Do you need to have a different mortgage opportunity? Have you had a life change? Do you need to be having, legal advice? Is it right to LLC, or do you need to have a title review done? Do you have peace of mind with insurance and with warranty, or even pest control? And what's happening now in between the transaction? Because we as real estate professionals, there's going to be a longer life cycle until we're probably called back in many cases, to be at that point of sale for that particular game face. So what are we going to do to keep cheering from the sidelines in order to also generate the trust for referrals and repeat business and investments and so forth? So I think this is something that I'm seeing in my, nearly 3 decades of this industry, that we've got to be able to respond to like never before. And not just rely on that moment in time when they are ready to have us open the doors to a new home or property.
Yeah. And, one thing I think in the time that we are in right now, a lot of agents haven't experienced this type of a season. No. And so it's even more important for them to take notice and prepare that, this market changes, it changes overnight practically. We just experienced that. So, the agents have to have that confidence that when the market does shift, they are strong in what they have been doing in their past to help them carry them forward. Like you said, a strong, past client database. If you don't have a good database, build it. Yeah.
You've got, that's right. That is your client base. And I love that comment, because I was just speaking with one of our top agents who's been in the business, 18 years. And her comment to me was, DeAnn, I just realized I got to get back on my game with sharpening my negotiating skills. So if someone's been in the business less than 3 years, or they've been in the business, but they've been in a marketplace where, you were getting 42 offers on a property and there was no due diligence, no financing, no appraisal contingency. And it was either take it like this. Honing the skill set of negotiating, I think, is probably one of the best things that we as professionals can be doing right now, because we are getting back into, I call it the great reset. Is what we're going through right now. I always like to see things, positive, despite what's in the headlines and the news.
That's right.
Because this is a normalizing, this is a recalibration, and this is a good thing to be able to
Mm-hmm.
make the experience more reasonable and not as inflated as what we experienced the past, 2 to 3 years.
Right. Well, it's kind of like I heard somebody talking, I may not say this correctly, but they were saying, um, when a home buyer or a home seller comes to them and says, well, with the interest rates and with this going on and that going on, is this a good time for me to sell? And he said, my question is always right back to them. Is this a good time for you to sell? Why are you selling right now? Because everybody is going to buy and sell. It's just a different season for everybody. I don't know if I said that right, but you know what I mean by it is that, like, when my husband and I bought our first house, that was in 1980, late 80s. And we were paying like 18% interest. And we were thrilled because all of our friends were paying 22 to 24%. But it was our season, and we wanted a home. We said, you know what, we'll buy the home. We didn't know any different. But then when the rates came down, then we decided, okay, is it smart to refinance and things like that? So it's like the market is always ready to buy and sell. It's just when that home buyer is ready or that home seller is ready. I don't know if
You
that came
said
out.
it right. No, you said absolutely right. We even posted some kind of consumer sentiment marketing pieces, because if you really think about exactly what you just said, Kim, if you bought a home in the past 2 or 3 years, right? But if the price appreciation had escalated so high, or maybe you got into a bidding war and you paid $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 more, yet you got a 3% interest rate. When you back out into the monthly payment, what does that really equate to versus if now as prices are settling back in, and sure,
Right.
maybe you're hitting a 6% interest rate that you can always refinance. We know this about
Mm-hmm.
interest rates. They're going to be cyclical, just like the
Mm-hmm.
market. And over the past 30 years, the average interest rate has been right around 7%. I think it was 6.65 or 6.68
Mm-hmm.
was the last statistic. So we're right in a normal interest rate. But you know this, you can't buy happiness,
No.
but you can't put a price on what you're going to be able to do when you make a move and you move into a home that fulfills your needs, it fulfills your lifestyle. It accomplishes the dream. And there's no
Mm-hmm.
price you can put on those lifestyle moments. So
No.
we absolutely tell our people, and NAR's predicting that, sure, maybe we won't have nearly 7 million people moving this year, and that's okay. We need to get the
Mm-hmm.
inventory back to give you the options. And if they're predicting over 4 million, that's still a lot of opportunities.
Right.
And there are going to be opportunities around you. And I also
Mm-hmm.
think we'll see a decline in the number of agents leveling out who got into the business for whatever the reason was the past 3 years, and are realizing that, you got to have some muscle and be willing to last in this business to
Right.
survive.
Well,
So
if we go
it's
back,
all working out.
yeah, when you go back to, 2008 through 2010, when the big short sales and the collapse of the financial industry and all of that, it was a wake up call for a lot of agents, even those that have been in the business for years. They had to rethink, how can I help my community? And I said, if you go into that with an attitude of how can I help instead of how much money am I going to make, it'll all come full circle. And it did. And it was so cool to be in the back end watching these agents who tried to help these homeowners get out of their home with dignity. And then when the market changed, those homeowners came back to that agent and bought homes from them going forward. So it was like, this is incredible to be a witness to. And so I kind of look at it, I don't think it's like it is now, but it's a much better market, but it's the same thought process. Be strong in what you have to offer your clients, and you will survive. You'll have a strong back end business. You'll be confident of what you have to offer, and your community will have confidence in you. So I think
Confidence
that's a
is the
big
word
thing.
right there. Confidence
Mm-hmm.
and trust. Those are the two words.
Yeah. So you talked about, you know, to become a solid performer. Let's talk about a couple of tips that you can give someone, that you can offer an agent, whether they're new or seasoned. So what would you offer there?
Well, one of my favorite kind of challenges or ask that I am known to say is when I have the opportunity to be in front of a group, or even just, talking and coaching an agent one-on-one, whether it's the beginning of their career, or a milestone year and they've been doing this a long time, I always say, look in the mirror and say, would you hire you? If you've been doing it a long time, would you still hire you? If you were a buyer or seller, would you entrust the most important, financial asset that you have in you? And it's actually, it's a humbling exercise, because when you really kind of peel back the onion, and it goes, oh, you know what? I really do need to refine my listing presentation, or the skill set that I'm bringing. Or maybe, now's the right time as the market is shifting. I need to go back and reevaluate my marketing proposal, my marketing plan, because maybe what I was needing to do the past 2 or 3 years was different when a sign was put in the yard and it sold, and then, let the games begin at that moment.
Right.
So I always say that is number one. I mentioned number two earlier, the negotiating piece.
Right.
But I think that the biggest piece too, that we have an incredible opportunity as professionals, is to educate the consumer more and more. The process of buying and selling anything in the world has changed so drastically through the pandemic. Think about it. Whatever you want right now, you can pretty much get it in the palm of your hand. And you can compare and you can research, and it can come with ease, and it can become fluid. And as Harrispool is saying, 90% of consumers out there, I think is the latest quote, it might even be higher than that, are seeking an all-integrated, all-in-one seamless experience. They want the process of buying and selling a home to be less complicated and less ridden with fear and stress. Now, it's always going to be, stressful, because you're dealing with people's financial assets, you're dealing with the emotions of a move. I mean, it is wrought with a lot of different moving parts. But we've got to go back and look at how we're retooling the process to make it easy, to improve communication, to keep people in the loop of where we're at, to make certain that timelines are really clear. And when we can do some of the heavy lifting to keep the joy in the whole process, that's our job. That is our job. And communication is at the crux of it, I believe.
I totally agree. Communication, it's like I was telling some clients the other day in a conference call that, whether that lead is brand new, came to you through social media, your website, whatever, know what you're going to do with that lead. Listen to what they say, because a lead that's, say, 0 to 3 months out, is going to be different than a 6 to a 9 month lead. Okay. That's just a lead. But then, so you've got to make sure that you can talk to them in that capacity, but then also know what you're going to talk to and educate your current clients, your active clients. So this was something I laughed, because somebody brought this to my attention about a month ago. And I said something about, well, the pre-listing process. And the agent sat there and said, well, what are you talking about? And I said, well, that's right. You don't know what that means. And so, I had to walk them through. This is what you do before you list the property, not when you list it, but you develop that relationship before you even have them sign a piece of paper that you're going to be the listing agent. And then walking them through that whole process. And then afterwards, what are you going to do for the next 10 years to keep in touch with that person? And it's all about the relationship. I'm always saying, when I ask a client or a potential client, what, just like, what are your goals for the next year or the next 3 months? And they talk about their volume, their dollar amounts. And I said, I don't want to hear about the money. I want to hear, what do you want to achieve in 3 months, in 6 months? And then, because when you take the money out of it and you do what you focus on, the money comes with it. It's just, you've got to reshift the way you think about your finances and what you're really in the business for, and it's
this, Kim, if you pour your wealth of knowledge and you gift your priceless skill set, and you open your heart and your sweat equity, if you will, to really guiding people to the right decision, and you come at it with that mindset, you know what? The results in your success and the volume and the units and those things that will follow. But at the heart, it's people. Each lead becomes a moment in time to open up more relationships. And people always say, my last name is Golden. So of course I live, I
Golden
cherish, I
rule.
uphold the golden rule and all I do. It's the preamble of our code of ethics, but I
Yeah.
challenge everyone to take it to that next level, that
Mhm.
nth degree of the platinum rule, which is, doing to others the way they want done unto them, not just the way we want done unto ourselves.
Right.
And so think about every time you're in front of someone or given the opportunity to help someone, how do they want to be served?
Mm-hmm.
And then the numbers and the results and the success will follow.
Yeah, that's true. I say it all the time. I said, especially with the world we're in today, customer service has really dropped. And so when you can go beyond the expectations of somebody, I don't care whether you're the guy that's at McDonald's handing the sack out the window with your food already in the bag. If he's got a smile on his face and he was like, thank you for, coming, that to me is like, oh, wow, where you don't get that anymore. So if you just treat people the way you would want to be treated, but how do they expect to be treated? You're gonna blow them out of the water without even trying, because the customer service is just, people don't expect good customer service anymore, because it's just fallen, and it's sad, and we all have experienced it. I mean, we all have bad days, but we all have experienced, like, gosh, if they just smiled, or just held the door open for me or something like that, some little something that just can go a long way. Because I always told my kids, I said, you don't know what somebody else is going through. So you always smile and acknowledge them and look them in the eye. And if you do that, you probably did the best thing for them all day long, So that's
I don't
the
want
way
to misquote the book, but I think it was in Raving Fans. I mean, they talk about that even fast service had in many instances is not fast, or it's
Yes.
not delivered with the expectation. Now, there's certain fast foods that have leaned in, the past couple of years more than ever, and they've even revamped their whole drive-through system, and they have live people. They're taking your order and saying, how may I help you? And thank you, and have a great day. And thanks for coming back. And, I mean, if that's what's happening in the world of exceptional fast food service for those that are trying to stand out, we've definitely got to be doing it when we're handling the most important financial investment for people.
Absolutely. So let's talk about you and how you manage all of this, being a mother of two. I mean, what are they, middle school? Yeah.
Middle school and high school. Right?
Yeah. So kind of walk through how you balance all of that with, from the time you get up in the morning until the time you go to bed, with all the things that the kids are doing and you're doing.
Well, I'd be misleading if I didn't say it wasn't sometimes a challenge, and it is a juggle. You're juggling. We're all juggling.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, life is a series of balls, and, we're trying to keep them going. But I do believe that, much like my great mentor and our chairman emeritus now, who had served as our president, Dan Forsman, he always said, own the morning. And so I'm very diligent about rising early and having still time to, have my affirmations, have my meditation, read and prayer, work out, have a good breakfast. Because I know for me, if I can accomplish more before 7 a.m., before the kids are off to school, I will win the day, as our dear friend Brian Maffini says. And that's where I had to really ensure that my systems in the morning, and to not get down rabbit holes, or, as I like to, in cul-de-sacs, with things that pull me away. So for instance, a quick pass in the morning of my email cannot become a 45-minute, getting derailed from what I have to get accomplished first, or getting called off surfing the web, or being distracted. And those are the things too. The next piece is whatever's going to be the biggest challenge I have to face that day. Dan always also told me, swallow the frog first. It's kind of a funny saying.
Oh, that's funny.
But, take those things that are making you apprehensive, or that are challenging, or maybe difficult conversations, handle those up front. And then Jim Rohn, who was just an incredible mentor and just motivator, he says, be there. Wherever you are, be there. So when I'm with the kids, getting them ready for breakfast in the morning, or getting Wilson's karate ready, or getting Grace ready for cheer or math or swim practice, be there with the people in your lives when you're there. Right now with you, I'm all here. I know there's text messages probably coming in, and there's things coming, and there's bills to pay, there's things pulling at me, but give people the gift of your time, and be decisive and be efficient. And then just realize, it's okay. I'm not perfect. My car may
Yeah.
be a mess right now, but it's okay. You know, I'll do that this weekend. Give yourself grace and mercy.
Yeah.
Kim, you know, I'm widowed. I lost my husband when my children were very young. Just a total, you know, upset our entire world, and the stability, the normalcy. And so I had a choice, you know, do you break down or do you break through?
Right.
And was it hard? Absolutely. But it also made me realize that I'm sure not perfect. And I just have to realize that there's only so much you can do, but just give what you are given the opportunity to do, give it your best.
Mm-hmm.
And know you gave it your all that day. And the sun will come up tomorrow. So
Yeah.
rise tomorrow and
Sun
take it
always
over.
comes up the next day. You know, that's one thing that I learned a long time ago with, you know, when I was starting my business, I had 3 little ones. My husband traveled constantly, so I felt like a single parent, and I was taking care of his mother. And so there were times that I would go in the bathroom and shut the door and just sit there and cry. And my kids knocking at the door, Mommy, Mommy, I'll be there in a minute.
Calgon, take me away,
But you
right?
know
You know,
what? I
I'm
mean,
dating
I
myself.
was like you. I was very present. And I think that's really important for parents that are in the real estate or any industry really. But be present for the kids. Put the phones down, you know, put it on airplane mode. Be present because those moments will pass by very quickly. And so just be aware, like when you're sitting down with your family for dinner, turn off your phone. When you're sitting down with a client, turn off your phone. That person has given you their time. And then in the world that we live in the fast pace, that time is fragile and it's precious. And so we want to make sure that us as entrepreneurs, we pass that on to the client, make them feel as equally as important as we would want our family to feel. I personally think.
I
So
agree. And I'm a big list person. I mean, I write down all my goals. I'm big on business planning. You know, I think having visual goals, having scoreboards, I've got a big whiteboard, you know,
yeah.
and that way it helps keep it on task. And then you can prioritize, you know, what's urgent and imminent and what can be passed to but it keeps record, and then constantly be evaluating that. So
I totally agree. So let me ask you this on a personal level, when you are not doing real estate and you're not with the kids, what does DeAnn like to do? What are your hobbies?
well, my biggest hobby is being a cheer mom or a karate mom or a
Yeah.
football mom, and being there with my children. But that aside, long ago I was a collegiate swimmer, and so again I still think some sort of exercise is so important, whether it's just even walking, several times a week, or I still do some summer league master swimming, but
Oh,
finding a
wow.
way that you can get out and be physical, whether it's yoga or whether it's running, whatever it is, whether it's a hobby. I think that's so good because without your health, you have nothing. And
Right.
so I always try to ensure that no matter how busy and crazy the weeks are, that there is at least some kind of dedicated time, at least, 4 times a week, that I can do some sort of exercise. And that it fuels me up. It lets my brain. I also love to read. I love, motivational books, and I love podcasts. I love to cook, but that's one thing that right now with our busy lives and I just don't have the time to do it
Yeah.
as much. But those are pieces that on the weekend, being a weekend warrior to cook is wonderful. But to me, it's about new adventures and finding things that I can expose my children to, that we can do together now, whether it's golf or skiing, but kind of living now through their eyes is
Isn't it great? That to me, when my kids all graduated, somebody asked me, they said, "Oh my gosh, what are you going to do now?" And I went, "Well, I've identified through my children so much, but I enjoyed being that mom. I mean, I had boys, so I didn't have the cheer squad and all that, but you know what? I was wearing those football jerseys and I was team mom and I was, and I loved it. So it's, you just find what makes you happy. What makes one happy doesn't make the other, so, that's what I just tell people. Don't compare yourselves to somebody else. Find what the joy is in you and what puts that fire going. And then go for that, and then you'll figure it out,
And in our
So-
business, I mean, where it is activities that put you in contact with other dynamic people, I mean, that
See?
becomes in a way that not only you build a great personal relationship, but when the trust is there and there's a respect, and then that does open opportunities for you to help them too, with whatever it is, whether it's in real estate or in other ways in the community. So it's
Mhm.
just kind of a thread that weaves between us all.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, I'm just going to sit here and just say, I love talking to you. I always love talking to you. And in watching you, I follow you on social media and I see what the kids are doing and everything. So, and I see your mom, and I just love y'all to death, And so
Well, we love you too. And you've been a gift to us in so many ways. And
well, you've been when I saw you in San Diego, I was like, I cannot believe this. This is so great. So yeah, it's fun, and I'm glad, because I think that was the last time that there was. Well, there may have been one more, but then everything shut down.
Mhm.
And so now people are starting to have conferences again and all of that. And I always say, if you're going to go to a conference, go prepared to learn, and make sure what conference you're going to, you're learning, you walk away with action, so that was something that I always say.
And you network, you make invaluable relationships as you
Mhm.
go. And I
Yes.
would be remiss for those that are listening. I mean, what you've brought, though, Kim, to the industry has been fulfilling a need that so many of us that are heavily sales oriented have needed, and being
Mhm.
able to help us get the systems and the processes in place for our business, or to be able to have a virtual assistant or support, or to be able to coach someone through what you're doing. So, you have been such an asset to this industry in so many ways that, it is such a valuable partnership to have what your
Mhm.
skill set and what your team does, helping us to be able to do better what we do, with what our God-given talents are. So
That's
again,
right.
thank
Well,
you for
you are so
everything.
wonderful. You're just wonderful. You know that. I know that. So,
Of,
but
of,
anyway,
of
so is there
amazing
anything that you
gift.
would like to close with, that, somebody can go and leave this conversation and go take action on one thing? If they could take action on anything, what would that one thing that you would say a real estate agent could do? Yeah.
So I would say, first of all, go look in the mirror and say, would you still hire you? And would you hire you today, tomorrow, for 5 years, for 10 years, for 20 years, for 25 years? I truly
Mhm.
believe right now what is going to be the game changer is the agents that are committed to being in this business, as I said earlier, for the life cycle of the people that they know that are in their sphere and in their friendship bank and in their life. Because to me right now, knowing that there's going to be that longer cycle between where we're at point of buy or sale, we've got to be a trusted advisor for all things real estate, all things community,
Yeah.
promoting our communities, telling the story of the incredible assets that are there, and the reason why people would want to come home to where you are and to get involved in your communities more. This is going to be a game changer. And so right now, that would probably be my number one. And to think back through, if you were having, an event this Friday with 250 of the most important people in your lives, when's the last time you talked to them? When's the last time you offered them a financial real estate portfolio review? When's the last time you talked to them about their wealth accumulation strategy? Because if they're people that you know and love and care about, to the point you'd have them into your home or at an event or a marriage or whatever it might be, or a graduation for a child, what are you doing to help them take every advantage of the power of the American dream and home ownership? And don't just wait. Don't wait for them to call you. It's
Mhm.
our opportunity to be that spokesperson and be that guide. So that's probably the best advice that I can give. And
Great
it's
advice.
it
Yeah.
makes for a really, really rewarding career too.
They have to be adapt, and just what I always say is a good agent can adapt to any shift in the market. So,
Yes.
be prepared. It's not going to be smooth riding all the time,
I
So,
love this quote I said yesterday. I had our big company-wide kickoff yesterday, and I don't know who said it, so I'm sorry to not cite the source, but had a great slide, and it was these waves, and it was a surfer, and it was like, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And that's what we've got to keep doing, because this is just another wave that our market's going to see.
mhm.
And the way we continue to persevere and not be beaten down is keep learning different ways how to surf through and ride
Yep.
the wave. So.
You're so right. You're so right.